Now, when we think about a rapture versus a reaping, I want to go to my whiteboard for a minute and I want you to understand that these are two very different things. Now, when we think about a rapture, now a rapture is actually a distinct word that when you actually look up the word rapture, or if you think about how it is often received today in its meaning, it really means to carry someone or something from one place to another. So, when we think about the word rapture, I want you to really get this, is rapture is about the carrying away of someone from one place to another. And the emphasis is on transportation. Now, I want you to really get this because this is the wrong emphasis. We should not be focusing on transportation when we're talking about the qualification to get back to heaven or to get to heaven or to get back in a place with God. That was, existed before even we see the things that are happening with mankind. Eternity always existed. And so for you to get to this place, eternity, to get to this place, heaven, and to say that rapture just means to carry you from one place to another, right? Doesn't have anything to do with who you are, what you've done. Doesn't have anything to do with qualifying for anything. Doesn't have anything to do with anything you need to change. Just carrying you from one place to another. This is why so many people believe that the rapture pretty much means it doesn't matter where I'm at. Like I could be in the midst of a gang fight, and if I am gonna go to heaven because of whatever reason, I'll just disappear and end up being carried away to another place. If I'm in the midst of talking to someone, if I'm actually shooting a jump shot on the basketball court, I might be running a touchdown, I might be getting my hair done, I might be in the midst of an argument on the street. Whenever that time comes, you're just gonna be carried away to another place. That's what rapture means. I might be riding a bull trying to stay on it for 8 seconds and I'll just disappear. I could be in the grocery store deciding if I'm gonna get gluten-free bread or whole wheat bread and just disappear. I could literally be roller skating and in the midst of spinning on my roller skates and just disappear. This is what is taught today about rapture, that I don't know when it's gonna happen. I don't know when it's gonna, take place, but when it does, I'm just gonna disappear. So don't look for me, right? Now, the problem for this is it's a complete focus on transportation, on leaving from one place to another. It has nothing to do with who you are, what you're doing, and what you've qualified for. It puts the emphasis on the transportation and not the transformation. So I want you to really get this. An emphasis on the transportation and not the transformation. Very, very important. And the Bible speaks of transformation, a change that has to take place in us. One place, the Bible even says to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So we know that the Bible speaks of a transformation that has to happen in our life, not a transportation that happens no matter who we are or where we are. So let me go back to the whiteboard for a minute, and this brings us back to another word, which is reaping. Now, when we think about the word reaping, reaping is a totally different word. When you think about reaping, here's some things that come to mind. We think about something that has matured and is ready for harvest. Now, when you think about a harvest is not just a time period, but it is a condition of being ready and something coming to full maturity or fruition. You know, the Lord put seasons in place. The Bible talk about how God put in place summer, winter, seed time, and harvest. It actually says this in the scriptures. He put these things in place. All of these things are symbols of how God works. That there is, and a lot of times the Lord would use agriculture, right? And he talked about, blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, or sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in it he doth meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth fruit in his season. And his leaves shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth, he shall prosper. And he went on to talk about how the ungodly are not so. They're like the chaff that the wind driveth away. So he used agriculture a lot. He talked about the early rain and the latter rain. He had different feasts at different times of year that correlated with what was going on with the agriculture and with the land. And all of these things were important because it was symbolic of what was important to God, that there is a process for something to come into a harvest. So when you really skip over this and you say there's a rapture, you ignore what God put in place, which is a reaping. That there is something that we have to go through to mature, to qualify to actually go back with the Lord, right? So I do, admit there's scriptures in the Bible that's very clear that there will be a second return of the Lord, that there is something that is pending. There is a time period where things won't just continue as they are. And there is a judgment that the Bible speaks of that will come upon this known world. But before it does, he does speak of a people that he's going to take out of this earth. And some has been being taken out along the way, and some, there is a final day where he's going to say there's no one going to be left here that I have not redeemed out of this earth, who has been qualified. This is the key, who has been qualified. So when you think about reaping, you start thinking about, just like you do with a fruit or a vegetable that is growing, you're seeing before you pluck that, you see if it's been qualified for plucking, because you want to know that it's coming to maturity. See, this is again why reaping is a biblical term and rapture is a religious term and a tradition term that is not based on truth and scripture.